Hey guys, welcome back. Voymonk's video voiceover. And this one is going to be about friendships and other relationships I've had through the years. And I know I've talked about love and that sort of thing. I know I've talked about a lot of different kinds of environments for that kind of thing. But I think when it comes to investing in other people, there's always a risk because, as I've mentioned in a previous video voiceover about knowing oneself and talking to oneself, dealing with others is a bit of a gambit. It's hit or miss. Some relationships are about giving with both hands, and some relationships are about taking with both hands. Some of those situations and circumstances work for some people and they don't work for others. I just think that, and I do my comparisons because I lived a number of years, not as much as some, but more than others. And I can say that through the years of the 30, 40 years that I've been around on this planet and experienced life in terms of making friends and having relationships, I can say that it is true, at least from my perspective, that most of the people that are met and learned through life are always going to be temporary. I don't know that there's very many people that, while you may see it on TV, you hear about it and you read about it, for me, I have an experience that I think the description is right, or I don't know if I can say the other word, but, ride to the end, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, so to speak. And the thing of it is that I think you can love and I think you can like. I think you can do both at the same time, but I don't think the two things are necessarily the same thing. I've loved people that I didn't like, and I have liked people that I didn't particularly love. And when I say love, I don't mean on a consequential means. I mean a love on a general. I would generally wish everyone listening and the people who could be listening or are listening, or the people out there in the world, good health, to never have cancer, to never truly have the person that they love leave them or have to leave them. But when it comes to friendships, I think friendships, like a lot of things, have kind of developed an entirely different, or at least a new meaning. I'd say back when I was growing up in terms of making friends, you develop relationships, but you went in without ever knowing, hey, I'm going to know this person for 20 years of my life or 10 years of my life or something like that. I don't think that's the way that you plan it. I think that's the way that it happens, because over a period of time, if you share enough experiences together, that you've made certain sacrifices for one another in terms of the betterment of the other. I think then and only then do you really at least start to develop that relationship in a way that it actually has some currency. I'm not saying it's always the most important thing, but of course in those relationships, whether they be friend or sometimes the romantic type, the idea that there's always going to be this forever and ever and ever will be the friends, no matter what. But of course, the no matter what comes, and life changes and things happen, and sometimes a relationship or friendship will end over a fight, over a disagreement. Sometimes, and this is probably mostly my experience, sometimes the more difficult is that sometimes relationships will just simply end because like a flower or a plant, you don't tend to them anymore, and you just drift apart to the point where you just can't see each other anymore, and you don't recognize one another, and you don't remember. And I think that is probably the more sobering realities about friendships and realities. But the truth is also that there are some people that, I mean, they're almost like family. And that word gets used quite a bit. I mean, even in the Olive Garden commercials. I don't know a lot of families that after they've invited you over for a meal give you a bill at the end. just pointing that out. Yeah. So, or serves you food and doesn't come and sit down and eat, or anything like that and have a conversation. So, but I think friendships, romantic relationships, family even, or surrogate families, maybe that's more appropriate description. But I don't know that there's necessarily the same opportunities that I mentioned before in terms of being able to cultivate those relationships and let them eventually become whatever it is that you think that they can become. And for me, I would say when it comes to a friend, I mean, some people put some specific identifiers. A friend is someone who will bail you out of jail. A friend is someone that, if you're in trouble, you can call at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and they'll come help you out. And I definitely believe that that's the type of thing a friend would do. I mean, I wouldn't expect that out of a total stranger, like a colleague or coworker that I didn't have a personal relationship with. But at the same time, I think there's more to it as well. I think a friend is someone who will be honest with you, whether it's a romantic relationship or not. I think honesty is a very important thing. That doesn't mean that I don't think that sometimes lying isn't appropriate at certain places. I'm not saying that I advocate for lying, but I can definitely understand a white lie as, I think, as the phrase, hey, do you know how fast you were going? I mean, probably better off not to say anything, but if you do you really want to say, yeah, I was for sure going 10, 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, but I don't know by the time you caught me what you got me. I think you say something like that, especially in that way. Yeah, it'll probably come back to bite you. And but nevertheless, like I said, there are consequences for being dishonest. As far as for me growing up, I wouldn't say that I was an honest child. I wouldn't say that I didn't lie a lot, because I did. And I think a lot of that stemmed from the fact that I didn't have a lot. I didn't know what a lot was. I didn't even know what normal people would do, but I kind of felt as though I had to put something up in order to be liked by other people, to feel some kind of sense of, I want to say, equal or balance with other people that I was around. The problem is that, of course, at that young of an age, I'm not fooling anybody. I think even as adults, when you lie, you might fool some people. I don't know what the saying is. You might fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And the truth of the matter is I lied a lot more because I really just didn't know who the hell I was. I didn't know what the hell other people wanted to be. But more importantly, I didn't know who I wanted to be. And I certainly didn't know who I wanted to be for other people, because what other people liked wasn't necessarily something that I liked. And so when it comes to being a friend, does that mean that you have to like all of the same things? Does that mean that you have to agree with all of the same ideas? Does it mean just being there for one another regardless to anything else? Someone who's going to be in your corner, someone who's going to defend you, maybe when you're not around, someone who's going to look out for you because they don't gain anything from it other than the fact that they truly love you and they feel loved by you, and they want truly what is best for you in terms of the better outcome in any situation. I think that's friendship. I think real friends are the ones that will lean on each other when they need it. I think they'll be honest with one another as well when it's called for. And I think a real friend is someone who's going to not necessarily judge you, but someone who's looking or seeking to better understand you and not necessarily tell you what to do, but be there, supportive, and give ideas, and when you need it, listen. I think that's what a friend in a friendship is. And I think some people can kind of confuse that to also being love in a romantic sense, although I think minus the sex, that's pretty much what a friend is, as opposed to a romantic relationship. So they're really not all that different. And I think sometimes, at least in my opinion, is as far as my experience, that's my opinion, my experience is that usually when a lot of times relationships kind of go off the rails or end, sometimes can be because of a significant other. I think sometimes people tend to forget that, well, yes, you're not having sex or you're not in a romantic relationship. I don't think anybody likes to feel like they're the second fiddle or third wheel, or they've been cast aside, or lack any importance in someone who they care about, because now they feel like they're being replaced and they care about someone else even more. And proportion is important, and I think that definitely comes up. It's like you spend all your time doing this, that, and whatever. It's just, we never have any time for each other in terms of just hanging out and laugh and, talking about or decompressing and stressing about our days. So I think when it comes to a friendship, those are things that are some of at least the very basic building blocks and prerequisites. I know a lot of people kind of have internet and online friends, and I definitely recall when I would play online as far as World of Warcraft and that kind of thing, that online people could develop some serious relationships, although I think most people that I knew were friends before World of Warcraft and going online, and then, of course, there were some handful that never met each other before World of Warcraft, got in a group, and, of course, later then became friends as a result. But that was definitely never my experience. I think when it comes to online and that kind of thing, I think not meeting someone in person kind of lends and tends to meet more of who people put themselves up as opposed to who they really are. Because you can do a lot of that online. You can, I suppose they call it catfishing. But I think you can catfish maybe in a number of ways, I think, if I understand the meaning. And if I'm using the term incorrectly, please let me know. But she just said you misrepresent yourself. You call yourself something. You say that you do something. You pretend you believe something or whatever, or you act a certain way that you think goes along with a certain character. And it's, sometimes you can even recognize it from others. Sometimes you can't. But I think in order to truly, really make a friendship and get to know one another, I think for me it's always required the being honest, telling the truth, having a real understanding of, again, not just who you are, which you could spend an entire lifetime to try to figure out, but who the person is that you're dealing with in terms of, not because you have to, not a colleague, not a professional relationship, but a friend. And so that's oftentimes what I see when it comes to making new friends as being important. And I realize that I'm old school, as it were, because maybe now those types of standards just don't make any sense if you want to capture the broadest appeal to other people. And I don't know. I think I've spent enough of my life trying to be liked and wanting to be liked to realize the kinds of things that I wanted to be liked for were not the reasons that I even liked myself. That's the truth. I didn't like myself. And so, I don't think it had anything to do with whether or not people liked me or not. But it definitely had to do with what I think or thought people wanted. And in the end, what would happen if I didn't meet that expectation, at least in my mind, or in fact, I didn't reach that expectation in reality, because I've seen it in other people. It's part of what I talked about before in terms of love versus like. I don't think the people that I've always loved in my life I've always liked or I've always agreed with, or I didn't have a serious issue or whatever. And with me having an avoidance trait and not liking drama or negative negative interactions with people, whether it be over money or it be about a specific particular issue, or I think some of the words that I've always dreaded is we need to have a talk. Because usually anytime anyone ever said, hey, we need to talk, or I need to speak with you about something, I don't think anything good ever came from that experience or that situation. So I've never been one to really appreciate that, but it's always something that's been a part of, I think, being a friend and having that kind of relationship, even including being romantic. But I will say that in my life now, I don't have any friends, not really. I don't have anybody that I can lean on, and I don't necessarily have a situation where, I am what I just described as far as in my earlier years. I've known people, I've had friends in the past, but the truth is that, here in the 2024, I don't. And the thing is, I don't think I'm alone. I think there's a lot of people out there that, even if they think they have friends, and I think that I thought that I had friends a bit too, but I think real friendships are sustaining. They last. I mean, there's people that I have known for many years that I wouldn't even necessarily consider friends anymore. I would have considered them family, but it's the same thing. I am alone in that regards in terms of friendship. And part of the big reason for that is because, relationships require, I want to say work, but they require an investment. If you want other people to invest in you, you have to invest in them. But I think overall, it has to be a voluntary want. And the thing that you get out of it is the friendship. And I think where everything has a dollar amount valued at it and things are instant, I think it's kind of easy to lose sight of that. At least from my observations. My personal belief is I think the next friend I have is I'd like to have a robot. I like to build a robot. Anytime they say anything that I don't like, I just flip a switch. turn them off. I know that's probably terrible, but I think if I had a romantic relationship, I think that sounds a bit appealing too. So, but yeah, that's gonna do it for this video voiceover. This is gonna be a little bit less of a lengthy one as my previous, but I hope it finds you well. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned. Take care.